So, Ellie, I think the question is, who are we?
Who are we and how did we meet?
So I've been in Cambridge for about 12 years now, I think. So didn't grow up here, not technically a local, but I feel like I am by now. I came here to study at Anglia Ruskin University. I did fine art. And while I was there, I met some really cool people. And then I left and I was working for the Arts Council. And while I was doing that, I was kind of trying to see what the Cambridge art scene was like. And it's loads of pockets of really brilliant stuff, but not a lot of really joined up stuff happening. And I don't think Cambridge gets, that recognition as like a really creative city that actually it could. There's so many fantastic people here. So I joined up with a couple of other people from Anglia Ruskin, Denise Kehoe and Ari Hilfiger, and we got in touch with the Lanyard Shopping Centre and we borrowed an empty unit and we started a project space, motion sickness project space, and that was all about building the local creative community a little bit, bringing people together and creating something that was in between the students at Anglia Ruskin and the really kind of top end artists at Kettle's Yard, for instance, just filling that gap a little bit. So I did that for a couple of years. I worked at Rowan, local arts charity, and I've worked at another arts charity in London. And it was around this point that I met Heather because of the link to motion sickness. And I was really interested in getting to do something a bit more sustainable and have a bit more of an impact. So that's how I came to be involved with Together Culture. And now I'm a co-founder.
Yes. Which is fantastic.
In a nutshell.
Yeah. I'm Heather Thomas, and I think Ellie Breeze is fantastic. So that's great, and really thrilled to be co-founders with her. So I'm Heather. I guess I'm the CEO and the founder of Together Culture. And why is that? I've always been really interested in identity, who we are and how we come together as people, how some people are excluded, how we find a sense of belonging. And when you really start to explore that, it's a quick jump to creativity and also social justice. I think it's all a very related spectrum. I don't know why. I guess some of it's probably my own experience in life. You can tell I have an American accent. I was raised in New York, but I've lived in the UK and on the continent of Europe for the most of my life, the majority of my life. I read history. I didn't want to go into academia, so I went into the arts, and I found myself working at Tate around about the time Tate Modern was being opened, which was extraordinary. Wandered over to the Royal Academy of Arts for a good period of time, and that was another extraordinary education, albeit a different one. About 2008, I made a decision to change things a bit. Austerity was bubbling, and so I went to work for an organization called YouthNet that was using tech to create solutions and to create networks and communities that blended digital and real-life experience for young people who were going to be experiencing very different and challenging circumstances because of austerity. It was an amazing organization, and shout out to everybody at YouthNet for creating a culture that helps people feel seen and helps people to really develop talents that we didn't even know were lurking within us. Everybody who's worked at YouthNet is still really, really tight. And like a lot of good organizations, that experience, it made me want to leave in that my boss was doing a tremendous job and there was more that I wanted to experience, and I needed to leave Emma to do her bit. So I moved to Copenhagen and I got my MBA at Copenhagen Business School. And the main reason I was really driven, God, I was so driven to go and live in Copenhagen for a while, was really the Nordic food movement. And a lot of people have heard about Noma and the best restaurant in the world, but it's so much more than that. It started as a movement that began by social entrepreneurs, people working in food, who got together. They wrote a manifesto because they wanted to help people find a new way to connect with one another and the rest of the natural world through the act of eating, bubbling up from social enterprise. And they did it. And Copenhagen and the Nordic region changed. Laws changed to foster agroecology. people's behavior patterns in terms of what they buy in the supermarket and what they cook at home began to change. The cost of organic and biodynamic food began to change because of it. How people ate out began to change. And it became international diplomacy in the form of Nordic food diplomacy. So I studied that, wrote my thesis on it, and then I spent 7 years living and working in the Nordic food movement, and I started a cultural and a food center that brought newcomers to Copenhagen together with locals who were really interested in developing a more international community in Copenhagen. And that was called the Mindful Kitchen. It was extraordinary. That thing called Brexit happened. And the writing was on the wall that it was time to come home. And moving back to the UK meant not London for us, because my partner and I were kind of done with metropolis living. And so looking around, it was trying to figure out what place felt extraordinary, like a village, with lots of creativity, lots of interesting people, lots of diversity, but wasn't living in the metropolis. And that was Cambridge. So we've been here for 4 years now and have loved every single bit of it. And getting here and learning about what's working, what isn't working, what the potential is in Cambridge has just really motivated me to start Together Culture and to want to build a new community and a more creative community. Yeah, I think that's about it.
I think so.
Yeah, that's us.